camera sits in a dark room, facing a bloodied man. Someone laughs at him and sprays confetti, congratulating him on being the winner. He wonders if he was meant to leave after winning. But the man says it's time for the final round. He pulls out 3 boxes and tells him to pick one by pulling a string. With no other option, he pulls one. Inside is a shotgun. He cries out that he promised he would survive, but the killer presses a button and an object slowly moves towards the trigger to fire the gun. He gets blown away. A car pulls up to a log cabin. 4 friends step out. James, the wealthiest of the group, brought them here. He always boasts about his dad's money, but his friends tease him and walk off. They have a blast all day long. As night falls, they decide to play truth or dare. Melissa picks dare, and James dares her to kiss Anita. They end up doing it. Then, James wants her to kiss him too, but when she pushes him away, he gets mad. He acts selfishly while a loud bang echoes from the door. They all jump in fear, but James brushes it off and tries to scare them more. He grabs a pole and heads outside to investigate. Once he's gone, the others turn off the lights to prank him. He switches on his flashlight and moves forward, but Melissa jumps out, scaring him. At that moment, James spots something hidden in the leaves. It looks like a camera recording. They bring it inside, and James insists they watch it. When Anita says it's a bad idea, he curses at her and pulls out the tape. He becomes more insulting and demands she play it. Anita finally snaps and tells him that nobody actually likes him. They only hang out with him because he's rich. She then smashes the tape recorder. James tells her to leave the house, yelling at her and dragging her dying mother into the argument. Matthew, the other guy, pulls him away. Later, while Anita is by herself on the balcony, Matthew joins her. She feels down because her mom has just gone through cancer treatment. He reassures her that everything will turn out fine. Meanwhile, James is in the shower when someone sneaks into the room. He becomes alert and grabs a razor. It's Melissa again, who surprises him and laughs. But then she gets a bit more intimidating, catching James off guard and teasing him to show her something. She laughs once more and walks away. That night, Matthew is picking up trash in a bag when he notices the camera is on and recording. There's someone behind him, but he doesn't see them. He turns around and notices the door is ajar. Feeling suspicious, he closes it and heads to Anita's room, where she's fast asleep and doesn't stir. He quickly goes to Melissa's room, and she's out cold too. He rushes to find James, but just then, a guy comes up from behind and injects him. He tumbles down the stairs, still trying to find James, but he's nowhere to be found. He manages to get outside, but soon collapses, unconscious. All 4 of them come to in a room, chained up. The lights are on, and that same camera is recording them. A man in a weird mask shows up. He adjusts the camera and then heads back to a green room. He practices his voice while the 4 of them struggle to break free, but it's no use. The man comes back, presses a button that pulls them back against the wall, and starts a countdown as the lights come on. Behind him are a bunch of mannequins that he refers to as his audience. He acts like a TV show host and introduces the contestants. He correctly names all of them and mentions that they're about to play a warm-up game of rock, paper, scissors, and shoot. Melissa asks if he'll let them go after the game. The host behaves strangely and accidentally cuts his hand. He tells the audience they're going for a quick commercial break. Just then, he leaves and the lights go out. James starts to suspect that one of them is playing a prank, but no one agrees. Meanwhile, the host is in the room tending to his wound. He grabs a plier and exits. He frees them from their chains and asks them to come closer. He has them play rock, paper, scissors, and shoot. And while both Anita and James choose scissors, he approaches Anita, saying if she can beat him, she'll win a prize. They play, and Anita chooses paper while the host goes with shoot. He admits he cheated and lets her pick between 2 prizes, scissors or shoot. Not knowing the outcome, Anita picks shoot. Next, he turns to Melissa, who chose paper. He pulls out a card from his pocket, calls it paper, and cuts off her lips. Then he reminds Matthew that he was rock. He picks up a rock and smashes it against his head. After that, he reminds James of his choice and cuts his finger with scissors. He laughs as James is left in shock. Then he pulls out a gun for Anita's choice of shoot. She screams in terror, but just as he pulls the trigger, it turns out to be just a lighter. He chuckles, saying he picked the wrong gun. He then addresses the audience again, asking for a round of applause before leaving. Later, while still tied up and with a bandage on his finger, James is freaking out and blaming his friends as the lights go out again. The host walks in with a pipe and reveals the next game, the Wheel of Pain. Melissa tells him he doesn't have to do this. The host replies that he knows he shouldn't, but the world works in a way where one person hurts another, creating a cycle of pain. He introduces a bonus round where they must confess the worst thing they've ever done. 3 of them will survive, and 1 will not. He starts with James, who curses him and gets hit in the groin with a rod. The host tortures him until James admits he was in a car accident where he ran over a woman, and his dad took the blame. Next, he moves to Anita, who confesses that to afford her mother's surgery, she created an adult website, which she now regrets as her worst mistake. Then it's Matthew's turn, and he admits to scamming people online and spying on his friends' internet activities. Finally, it's Melissa's turn. She works at a dog shelter and reveals that she sold a few dogs to someone who organized illegal dog fights, pushing those dogs to their deaths for a lot of money. The host steps back, sensing that one of them hasn't told the whole truth, but he decides to think about that later and turns to the Wheel of Pain. He loosens Melissa's chain and calls her in. She spins it, and the game begins. He brings over a viewfinder and positions it for her eye. She's shown 3 bright images of well-known cities, and she has to guess them right. Melissa nails the first one, Paris. Just as she answers, a needle comes closer. The next image pops up, and it's New York. The needle inches closer, and she struggles to identify the next city. She ends up giving the wrong answer. Anita pleads for another chance, and Matthew backs her up. Melissa begs too, and he cheerfully hands her the tool. But just as she's about to hit the button for the next picture, the needle jabs her eye. Anita is in shock while the host celebrates. Melissa stumbles back, seriously hurt. The host then calls out James, saying he'll spin it for him. The choice is made, and it's the drill machine. He brings it to James, who keeps cursing him. The host decides to make it interesting by flipping a coin. If James wins, he gets a temporary reprieve. Eventually, he wins, and the host turns to Anita. He hands her the drill and tells her to drill through Matthew's ears. Matthew screams in terror as the host warns that if she doesn't do it, he will, and it'll be worse for all of them. With no other choice, Anita drills through his ear. She drops the drill, and it shatters. The host goes wild, claiming it was his only drill. Matthew is still alive, but completely drained. The furious host grabs the tape recorder and storms out. He heads back to the dressing room, labels it with Matthew's name, and adds it to his collection of footage. The others are just hanging around, looking for some peace and quiet. But before long, the host is back. He greets the audience and moves on to the next round. He's going to ask a question, and the answer that gets the most votes wins. The question is about which body part hurts the most. He starts with Matthew, who says head. Then it's Melissa's turn, and she goes with knees. Anita chimes in with stomach, and James, still trying to compete, says muscle. He reveals the answers, and out of 100 votes, 31 people chose head, 22 picked muscle, and 3 said knee. But nobody voted for stomach, so Anita is the loser. Matthew jumps in, pointing out that the votes don't add up to 100. He checks his pocket and realizes he made a mistake. 23 people actually said stomach. So, it's Melissa who ends up losing. He excitedly announces that he has a hydraulic press. He pulls out a remote, and a sharp, pointy press starts moving down towards Melissa. She screams in terror, but the host keeps pressing the button as it slowly descends. It touches her head, and he stops. Then, the host announces there's another bonus round. He asks the other 3 who wants to take Melissa's place. If someone does, she'll be spared. But no one volunteers, and he presses the button again, crushing her head in half. The lights go out. Everyone is silent. He covers her head and takes her body away. He goes back to the dressing room and makes a cut on his face. James, in a frenzy, tries to yank off the chain when he suddenly hears a sound. The host walks back in with a TV. He plays a clip of a woman who's tied up. Then he approaches Anita and shows her his face. He goes back to the TV, and the footage keeps rolling as he brings in a chainsaw to finish off that woman. After that, he leaves. James mentions that he recognizes him from somewhere. Apparently, Anita knows who he is. She admits that she lied and never ran an adult website. She used to work on the Barry Miller show. The host was the famous Barry Miller. He had some sexual allegations against him, but they were dropped. While watching the news with her friends, Anita hears that Barry paid them off. She wonders what if he was actually innocent. In the end, both of these guys could end up being Barry's victims. A little while later, Barry comes in and chats with Anita, surprising her with a birthday cake. As he puts his hand on her shoulder in excitement, her friend bursts in, questioning why he's touching her like that. He feels embarrassed and leaves, apologizing. Eventually, the situation drags on, and her friends push her to file an allegation against Barry. She decides to do it for the lawsuit money that could help her mother. She meets with a lawyer, and even though she hesitates for a bit, she signs the papers. Currently, Barry brings in a bag and sets it down in front of them. Now that James knows his true identity, he tries to make things right. He says he'll help Barry clear his name and get his show back. Barry looks at him, excited, and asks if he would really help him regain his family fortune, fame, and respect. James replies yes, since his father has plenty of money and connections. Barry then asks if he shows up to his father with his cut-up head, would he still help him? James gets annoyed and tries to hit him. Just as he moves his head, his chain breaks. Barry pulls out a severed head from the bag. It's the lawyer's head. He shoves it in Anita's face and forces her to chew off his tongue. With no other choice, Anita complies. Just then, James breaks free and punches Barry, who falls down. James feels pumped to land another hit, but Barry pulls out a remote from his pocket and presses a button to electrocute his collar. Everyone is stunned, and they all weaken. Later, a couple of cameras are set up, and both Matthew and James are tied to beds. They have stitches on their stomachs. Barry introduces his next game. He throws a knife at Anita, who is lying there helpless. The game is called Incision Decision. He heads back to his room and talks to her from there. He tells her that inside one of their stomachs is a key that can unlock a door for her to escape. Anita refuses to do it, and the host warns her that otherwise they will all starve to death in about a week. James urges her not to go through with it, promising that his father will pay her a lot of money. Matthew also pleads with her in his own way. James is convinced she's going to kill him, but surprisingly, Anita moves toward Matthew. He begs her not to take his life. Then she approaches James. He screams in terror as Anita cuts into his stomach. She reaches inside and finds the key. She rushes to the door, but it doesn't work. She tries the other door, but that one doesn't work either. She screams in despair as Barry tells her that must have been the wrong key. Meanwhile, James is already dead. He mentions that they're about to head into the final round. The last person standing will be the winner. He lets Matthew go, and now they're ready to fight each other. He approaches James's body and grabs the knife. Slowly, he walks over to Anita and tells her there's something he's always wanted to express. He kisses her and confesses his love. Then, he lunges at her with the knife. Anita recoils in fear and pleads with him. To her surprise, he steps back and asks her to win by using the knife on himself. He collapses, and Barry congratulates Anita for emerging as the winner. Anita feels weak and wakes up in the green room. She grabs a sharp card. She checks out her surroundings and finds some water to clean her face and hands. Moving on, she discovers odd items scattered around the room. She walks through a spooky corridor and spots Barry in a side room. He invites her for one last game. Once again, he addresses the audience and names the game. Pick your prize. A party popper goes off. He tells her that all she needs to do is choose the right box, and then she'll be free. Anita, feeling desperate, knows he'll kill her anyway. She calls him by his real name, Barry, but he retorts that Barry is dead and she's the one who killed him. She insists she's the only one who can bring him back to life. She claims she'll admit to lying and everything will be fine. But Barry isn't interested and tells her to pull the string. She apologizes, which only makes Barry angrier. He calls her a liar and a hypocrite, accusing her of wanting to save her mother's life at the cost of his. He says she also took away his family. Anita confesses, but it's too late now. Barry sits in front of her, insisting she has to pull a string anyway. If she does, he promises to leave her mother alone. Anita cries, realizing the gravity of the situation, and pulls a cord. A box opens, revealing a cake, just like the one from her birthday. Meanwhile, Anita pulls out the card and has cut her tie loose. She punches him, and as he falls, she makes a run for it. She finds the exit gate and finally steps outside. But just as she's about to escape the long factory, Barry appears from behind and presses the remote, shocking the caller. She collapses, and he drags her back inside once more. He makes her sit in front of the cake and pushes her face into it. But with her hands tied, her face ends up buried in the cake. When he pulls her out, Anita is stunned to find that there's nothing there. He confirms it, but adds that there's both good and bad news. The good news is that she's free to go home, which makes Anita happy, and she laughs. But the bad news is that the cake tastes awful. Before she can wash it off, her face starts to burn. It escalates quickly, and soon her eyes give out, leaving her crying that she can't see. She tries to escape, but it's futile now. She crawls, but eventually succumbs to her weaknesses, falling lifeless. Barry sits next to her, humming away. He plays a video on his TV where he's caught the show's producer, the one who assaulted the women. Barry forces him to confess on camera and then smashes his head with a hammer. So that was the recap for the 2025 movie Your Host. For more recaps like this, stay subscribed to the channel. And if you have liked this video, you may also like this.